At COP27, President Nicolas Maduro urged to advance in concrete actions to address climate change while highlighting Venezuela's potential in food production. In Brazil, President-elect Lula da Silva ratified his government guarantee of social investment, development policies, and generation of jobs in the country. Hurricane Nicole has weakened to a tropical storm after making landfall in the U.S., according to local meteorological agencies. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. The president of Venezuela offered a statement after his participation in COP27, assuring that after his meeting with the Colombian president, Gustavo Petro, and the president of Suriname, they are seeking to form alliances to finance the recovery of the Amazon.
Well, we have to wait for the arrival of Lula on January 1st. The president-elect of Brazil, Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, who comes with a great burden, a great force for the defense and recovery and regeneration of vegetation and forests in the Brazilian Amazon. Brazil being the great Amazonian power, I believe that there was consensus in the meeting with President Gustavo Petro and the President of Suriname. There was consensus on the need to relaunch and strengthen the Amazon Cooperation Treaty, and from its relaunching and strengthening, propose an alliance with the world in defense of the Amazon.
In this context, the Venezuelan president assured that his country is working to become a food production power after the conflicts that are occurring in the world.
The general deterioration of conditions for food production is a major issue, which has worsened even more with the war in Ukraine. The issue of food security, which put us in a challenge, which is an existential challenge that we are covering and assuming, which is to turn Venezuela, with over 33 million hectares of good soil, good water, good sun, to become a food power for Latin America, for the Caribbean, and for the world.
Likewise, the Venezuelan president assured that the battles that the country has fought have been observed by the world, earning the respect and admiration of the nations of the world.
The battle we have given that in recent years has led us to be the center of a combat of the world. The battle that Venezuela has given against aggressions, sanctions, blockades, threats of invasion, threats of coup d'etats, assassination attempts, all those battles we have given in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021 have been observed by the world, by our own and strangers, by young and not so young, has been observed by the whole world, and has generated admiration, respect. We have earned the respect of the world for our courage, intelligence, bravery, union, patriotism. We have earned the respect of the world.
In turn, the Venezuelan head of state said that preventive measures must be taken to know how to face the consequences of climate change.
The first thing is to address, to create awareness, to continue taking preventive measures. Many of the preventive measures are invisible, they are silent. Unfortunately, they are taken and have given results. Others will. It is simply necessary to educate the population to know how to face the circumstances such as this: education, prevention, mitigation, and a lot of work, as had happened in Las Tejerias, a lot of reconstruction work, repair, assistance. Our people are not orphans. Our people have a government, they have support, they have someone to back them up, as has been demonstrated in Las Tejerias, in El Castaño, and in the rest of the country.
In Brazil, President-elect Lula da Silva ratified that his government will guarantee social investment while advancing in policies for the development and generation of jobs in the country. During the meetings held in the state of Brasilia with the heads of the judicial, electoral, and legislative powers, President Lula da Silva reaffirmed his commitment to fulfill and guarantee the social investment and the economic development of the country. Likewise, the president-elect stated that from the very first moment he takes power, he will start working on the creation of jobs. Also, the meetings led by Lula have the objective of negotiating some of the items related to the country's budget for the year 2023. We'll take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. During a press conference from the White House one day after the midterm elections, President Joe Biden hailed the elections as a good day for democracy and a good day for the country.
And it was a good day, I think, for democracy. And I think it was a good day for America. Excuse me, I'm a little hoarse. Our democracy has been tested in recent years, but with their votes, the American people have spoken and proven once again that democracy is who we are.
U.S. President Joe Biden also said that he is prepared to work with Republicans in Congress after their hopes of a red wave in midterm elections were dashed as Democrats outperformed expectations.
Regardless of what the final tally in these elections show, and there's still some counting going on, I'm prepared to work with my Republican colleagues. The American people have made clear, I think, that they expect Republicans to be prepared to work with me as well.
Now we move on to other topics. Hurricane Nicole has weakened to a tropical storm after making landfall in the U.S., according to local meteorological agencies. According to local media, Nicole advanced inland Florida as a Category hurricane, leaving 230,000 business and households under a blackout. Also, schools, shops, and non-essential services premises were closed because of the storm conditions. Nicole, which is the first hurricane to hit the U.S. in November in the last 4 years, is still packing maximum sustained winds of up to 60 kilometers per hour. At least 45 of Florida's 67 counties are in a state of emergency because of Nicole, as storm surge, flooding, and heavy downpours are expected. As forecast point, Nicole will disperse and weaken to a tropical depression on Friday. In Peru, fishers threw contaminated fish at Repsol offices in protest against the pollution resulting from the oil spills in the country's coasts. According to local media, demonstrators raised huge banners in front of the Spanish company this Wednesday to demand the incorporation of 150,000 people affected by the spill of some 12,000 barrels of oil in January. Protesters also pointed out that the management of financial compensation for the damages caused by the spill should be improved, and in accordance with the damages caused. Finally, different associations of fishermen and merchants said they still cannot resume their economic activities. And now we address other topics. In Belgium, on Wednesday, the European Commission proposed proposed a financial aid package of about 18 billion euros for Ukraine in 2023. In a statement, the European Commission announced that this package will provide on average about 1.5 billion euros per month to Ukraine to help cover a significant part of Kyiv's short-term financing needs for the coming year. The European Commission says that the contribution will consist of soft loans, disbursed in regular installments starting from 2023, to be repaid within a maximum term of 35 years. The Commission said it expects this loan will help restore Ukrainian infrastructure damaged during the ongoing conflict, like water distribution systems, transport networks, roads and bridges. Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu has ordered troops stationed in the province of Kherson to concentrate on the left bank of the Dnieper River and said that this contingent is successfully facing the enemy's offensive. The decision follows a proposal made by the Russian commander on the ground to preserve troops and ensure supplies. Shoigu said that the casualties among the wounded and dead are higher on the Ukrainian side by a ratio of 7 or 8 to 1, and that the Russian troops continue to shoot down between 80 to 90% of the enemy missiles aimed at Kherson to target facilities of social interest such as schools and hospitals. The Russian government will meet the next few days with representatives of the United Nations organization to discuss the Black Sea Grain Initiative. This meeting will deal with the two pacts signed on July 22nd to solve the food and fertilizer supplies to international markets. In this sense, one of the documents stipulates the obligation of the UN to remove restrictions on the export of Russian agricultural products, while the second document defines the outflows of Ukrainian agricultural products from the Black Sea ports. In this context, Russian President Vladimir Putin regrets that the bulk of these supplies were directed to the European Union instead of benefiting poorer nations. This Wednesday, on a press conference, Russian Foreign Minister spokesperson Maria Zakharova told reporters that Russian delegation headed by the Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will be present on the Asian Summit in Cambodia on November 13 and dialogue partners as well.
Question and this theme in general has nothing to do with us. I already talked about our participation in events in Cambodia. I'm talking about the participation of the Russian delegation headed by the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov at the East Asia Summit on November 13. Not only the Asian states, but also dialogue partners will take part in it.
And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The presidents of South Africa and Kenya said they resolved a long-standing visa dispute, and Kenyans will be able to visit South Africa visa-free for up to 90 days in a calendar year. South Africans already get free visas on arrival on Kenya, while Kenyans were charged and required to provide proof of sufficient funds and return flight tickets. The new agreement is set to take effect on January 1st. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa was in Kenya on his first official trip to the country. He and the Kenyan President William Ruto praised the Ethiopia peace agreement signed last week in South Africa and brokered by the African Union. The African leaders also directed their trade ministers to address barriers that limit trade between the two countries. Both nations are among the strongest economies on the African continent. On Wednesday, in a press conference, Director General of the WHO, Tedros Ghebreyesus, calls for a massive influx of food and medicines into Ethiopia's Tigray region, saying desperately needed aid had not been allowed in after a ceasefire deal. WHO chief emphasized that people are dying from starvation and treatable diseases and urged the back of reporters to the region because everything that has happened to 6 million people has been in total darkness.
And nothing is moving in terms of food aid or medicines. And you can imagine that many people are dying from treatable diseases. Many people are dying from starvation. What we believe is, even in the middle of a fighting, civilians need food. Need medicine. It cannot be a condition.
And fighting resumed on Wednesday in the Democratic Republic of Congo between the military and armed groups M23, a day after many people fled rebel-held territory being bombarded by military jets. Residents said they had heard the sounds of more fighting by the evening after a tense but quieter day. Officials said on Tuesday that the DRC's military used newly deployed jets to bombard M23 positions in the east of the country as some residents fled across the border. As fighting has escalated, the town of Rugari is thought to be near the current front lines, 30 kilometers, 18 miles from Goma. The UN said on Wednesday that at least 188,000 people had fled their villages since October 20th, the start of the new M23 offensive. At least 16,500 have taken refuge in neighboring Uganda. This Wednesday, Nigerian opposition presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar holds a rally in the country's northeastern state of Borno. During his speech, the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, candidate swore to reactivate the Chad Basin Development Authority so the country can produce food for its people and reduce unemployment.
Chad Basin Development Authority, so that our farmers can go back to farm, so that we can produce food for our own people, and so that we can also reduce unemployment. And we promise you on that.
Demonstrators gathered in Colombo on Wednesday to remember those who died during the protests against the economic crisis in Sri Lanka. The atmosphere in the commemoration was tense due to the heavy police presence amid allegations of repression by the authorities. A group of people gathered at the Galface Park in the capital, which for months has been the epicenter of the protest camp, to honor the 11 people killed during the demonstrations, which began 7 months ago. Protesters waved banners calling for an end to the crackdown and the release of the hundreds of activists who were detained in the wake of the protest on various charges, including damaging public property and disobeying court orders. We have come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.